What up, YouTube? What up, world? It's your boy, the author. Right back at that ass again. Here's another one. I just thought I'd come at y'all, man. I was thinking about this, man, before I hit the bar, coming home from work. I saw this not YouTube, actually, it was a Facebook post where this white girl was like, if you've never been, she made a post on Facebook, this white girl, and she said, if you've never been locked up, if you've never been in prison, if you've never been homeless, don't complain to me about your problems. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. I was like, okay, well, whatever, right? So I hit it up, and this white woman said, well, I've been homeless, I've been this, I've been that. Nobody doesn't even realize the struggle I've been through. And I was like, what? And I was like, well, shit, I'm black. I've come from a single parent family. I've been beaten by my mom's boyfriend. I'm like, what is this, a pity party? You know what I'm saying? I said, LOL. And my point is, man, I was sitting there thinking before I went ahead and got my Uber, before I got, drove back home. And I was saying to myself, I was like, no one really cares about the demise of young black boys and young black men in this country or across the diaspora. And Africans don't have to agree. I mean, they most of them like kissing white people's ass. Not all of them, but some of them do. But I'm just speaking freely, man. Most people do not care about the demise of young black men. Everyone else has an excuse. Like for example, a lot of black women have been, I'm going to do a video on this. A lot of black women have been killing their children this year. I mean, it's been the last few years. On the news, some of the news do report it, but I mean, it doesn't really get reported the way it should be reported. They'll have these individual isolated incidents over, different states, but they won't come out, of course, and say, black women are killing their children. But if you look at different cities and states, there's been a high volume of black women killing their 3 and 4 year and 9-year-old kids. Now I'm gonna make a video on this as well, but they always have an excuse. Either they had too much stress, had too much pressure on them. If a black woman kills their son that's 9 years old or 14 years old, she always has an excuse about why that happened. Always some type of excuse, whether she had too many kids or she was dealing with a post-pregnancy syndrome. They make up terms for females so they can have excuses to do evil and wicked shit. Even a lot of white females, man, there's excuses, well, especially it depends on who she did the wrong to. Now, if it was a wrong that was done to another racial group and she was white, she'll have an excuse. Maybe that person may have done something or something of other, and they'll make up some excuse. But the young black boys and young black men have, when they're, when they do something wrong, there's no excuse. And if they're killed, it was always their fault or something that they did. No one gives a shit about young black boys and young black men in America, or if young black men reside in England, or if young black men reside in Africa, or if they reside in the Caribbean, or if young black men reside in China. Young black boys reside in anywhere in the four corners of the earth. There's no excuse. No one cares if they die. And if they do die, it was probably their fault. Public opinion will say it was their fault. It was something that they must have done. or and the young black men. Here's the thing: a lot of these these cities like Chicago and Detroit and Baltimore, they have these high murder rates. No one is doing anything about it, but it's because the majority of people who are dying in these cities are young black boys and black men, or if they're older black men. It's the only group in the U.S. or in the world that you can kill and no one is alarmed. No one really cares. Now, some people liberals may give it lip service, but they won't do anything about it. It's like when Reagan, with the Berlin Wall back in the 80s, when they had that where whites in Berlin couldn't get from one side from east to west. He said, tear that wall down. But no one cares about blacks, whether they're and even African booty scratchers who are in Africa. When they think they come here, some of them think that they're better than blacks. They don't care about them either. So no one cares about black boys or young black men across the world. No one cares. That's the only group that can die in large numbers, and the world is okay with it. Any other group that dies in large numbers will get some type of sympathy, some type of concern. Even with the black mothers who were killing their sons. And I'm going to do a video on this. This past year, got some type of excuse. Somebody was giving it, oh, maybe they were stressed, and they got some type of sympathy. When a black man does something, he has to take account for it. That's it. He has to. Whether he did it or not, he has to admit that he did it. He has to take some kind of responsibility, even if he didn't do the shit. Even if he didn't do the shit, he has to take some type of responsibility for it. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking, as a young black boy or as a black man, it's not what you've gone through that's so bad in this life. It's not what you've gone through. It's what you could go through. It's what's waiting for you that hasn't happened to you, that could happen to you. Okay? And no one will give a shit. I repeat, the scariest thing about any black man on the planet is not what he's been through, no matter what that's been, but it's what he can possibly go through. And on top of that, no one will give a shit. That's scarier than what he's been through, what he may additionally go through, and on top of that, no one will give a shit. No one will have any sympathy. No one. People will say it was his fault, even if the cop shoots him. Now, granted, there's a lot of black on black violence, and that's caused from higher powers, a lot of it. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Now we should be more kind to each other. We should. If you know no one in the world loves you, then you need to love yourself. And our stubbornness is what makes things worse. But, that doesn't give the world a pass to not give a fuck. But, we could do better, and we should do better. And we haven't been taught how to do better, but we should. And this story really bothers me, man. It's this one. I've heard of this before. Mr. George Stinney. He was a kid executed in South Carolina, and I had to write it down because I know it, but I had to memorize the story. But George Stinney was executed in South Carolina for killing 2 white girls in 1944. And it took the jury just 3 months after the murders to convict him. What is it? It took he had a jury of 12 white men. He became the youngest person in the U.S. to be executed in the 1900s. Okay. It took less than a day for the jury to convict George Stinney Jr. of the death of these 2 white girls. And you can look this up, man. I mean, this is something that's been lost. I mean, like the what do you call that? The Emmett Till stories are sad, but this is bad, man. I mean, this is a guy, a young 14-year-old. They said the straps didn't even fit him in an electric chair. The straps didn't even fit him in an electric chair. He was executed for killing 2 white girls, and the judge is going to say, and this happened in 1944, and the judge is going to say in 2014 that he was denied due process. I mean, this is the arrogance, this is the stupidity, this is the bullshit that black men have to go through. That kid's been dead he would have been, his sister is still living. She's 80, and she says she's finally excited by that. Are you kidding me? I would be I'd have died years ago of rage. I mean, think about it. 44, 54, 64, 74, 84, 94, 2004, 2017. It took you 70 years after his death to admit that he was denied due process, and we're supposed to be happy about that shit? I mean, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man. It took them a day and a half. What is that? Day and a half to execute this kid? It took them less than a day for the jury to come back with the guilty verdict. It should have been a riot in every city. They executed this 14-year-old boy for supposedly killing a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old white girl. And he wasn't much older than them. So the chances of him doing it, more likely he did not do that. But the white people who probably did do that, just like on the Green Mile, where they convicted the big black Sambo, or the big black dude for killing those white girls, it was probably a spinoff of Stinney story, of his real story, because he was really convicted, and so he was sentenced to death, to the death chamber, in 1944 in South Carolina. Okay, and he was sentenced of killing 2 white girls. This is before the Emmett Till situation. Emmett Till came about 11 years after Stinney was executed. Emmett Till was able to happen because we didn't do shit when George Stinney Jr. was killed for no fucking reason. Okay, no telling what that kid would have been, man. But he was pretty much my granddad's age now. Convicted of killing 2 white women. They said the shackles in the electric chair wasn't even big enough to fit his feet. He was the youngest, quote unquote, American to be executed in U.S. history in the 1900s. Y'all gonna look this dude up. George, I think it's Stinney. Last George, first name Georg, Stinney, Stinney Jr. But for those of you who haven't heard of him, the youngest American to be executed in the U.S., a young black male, over killing 2 white females. And he's by the same age as them. And it was probably some white dude that did it, but he took the fall for it and was executed. That's what I'm saying. Even from 44 on, there's no love for the young black boys and the young black males. There's no excuses for what they do. They're the ones who could be easily executed in large numbers, and the world is okay with that shit. And that's more scary than anything that you as a black man may have been through. What's more scarier is what may be awaiting you on the other side, and the fact that no one's gonna give a fuck. How many black men? And it's because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean it won't, because it can happen to you if it happened to him. You know, man. I mean, that's some sad shit. I had to think about that. Like when they did, and it was a white girl who made the Facebook post, but I'm like talking about what you've been through. I said, well, the worst thing of just being black by itself is bad, being when you're a black male. And then the fact of what awaits you, you don't know. And you don't have the protection to defend yourself because we don't have our own businesses. We don't have our own military. We don't have anything, our own country. We don't have our own constitution. You know, we just sitting ducks out here, man. And it's a sad situation. And I mean, it's a bad thing, man. I looked at this George Stinney thing, Jr., and I was thinking when I was getting picked up from work, I'm like, man, this is really sad. And this can still happen today. A lot of kids locked up in Rikers, man, for less than $1,500 bond. Now, I don't know which one of them are getting a chair, which one of them not. Even if they are, I mean, they don't have to report it. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. You know? I mean, it's crazy. Like with all these black females killing their kids, killing their 3-year-olds, their 4-year-olds. This one chick killed her black male son because he wouldn't stop playing the video game. They were making excuses for her, almost like there was no life being taken. Now, if she had to do that to a white Jewish kid or a German, her ass would have been executed or given 30 years. But she did that to her own son. She might get off. She might get excused. I mean, young black boys and young black men are the most disrespected in this world, man. And it's high time that it stops. Only we can stop it, but we're gonna have to pull together, man. Because this is some crazy shit. I don't give a fuck what you think you are, whether it be a Hebrew, Israelite, or a Moor, or any type of bullshit, or Aborigines, or an Egyptian. They don't give a fuck about none of that. You got some type of, you got a flat nose, you got big lips at all. You could be light skinned with thick lips. They will give you that work. And it does not matter. Now, light skin may be treated a little bit differently, but at the same time, you can get that chair too. Especially when it comes to any other race. If that just counted as your race, look how many other people are above you. I mean, that's just a sickening story, man. Yeah, George, I want to say it's George Stinney or it's George Stinney, but it's George Stinney. George, I want to say Stinney Jr., man. Executed at age 14. 14, man. Even by today's standards, he's not old enough to get cigarettes. He's not old enough to drink. He's not old enough to drive. He's not old enough to join the U.S. Armed Services. But he was old enough to be executed for killing 2 young white girls. You can say, oh, this is the past, but that's never been resolved. You know, look at OJ in 95. A full-grown man. They was chasing through the streets because he supposedly killed 2 white people. And supposedly let them off, but then 20 years later, put them in prison for 9 years. Now you don't even know if that's the same person. No, that's another video. You know, lookalikes and cyborgs and all that crazy Hollywood shit. But I mean, yeah, man, that's crazy. That's a shame, man. We you know, And it's a shame you got blacks killing each other. And it's still an element out there. And that's a sad thing, man. You know, anybody in the world can make an excuse for killing a black boy, but a black man or a black boy doesn't really have any excuse for killing anyone else in the world unless he kills his own. That's the only way he can project his hatred outward. He has to inflict pain on his own, who's already been being eaten by the system. A lot of these are young black boys raised by single black mothers who are already fucked up in the head themselves. So I mean, like I was saying, who cries for the young black boys? You know, no one gives a shit about the life of a young black boy or a young black man. No one gives a motherfuck. So I advise you. I'm not saying being friends with everybody, because a lot of these gangster dudes, I don't give a fuck about either. I ain't trying to be no friends with every Crip and Blood and motherfuckers who prey on the community. However, be smart, be advised. But there is class and racial warfare out there. And they don't tell the difference between a gangster black, or a black who's making millions. Because when you driving, all they see is another black. So that racial element is out there. It'll always be out there. It's the first level of the game. And we haven't gotten past that yet. So, I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. But I thought I should touch on that, man. No one gives a shit about young black boys or young black men being killed. And it's some sad, sad shit. Because you can make a video and say if it's some young Jewish white boys, people give a fuck. And I'm not saying it's good to attack your own, but still, it's not. But still, and then that's inbred hatred, but still. You know, you should get more humility than that. I seen a young black guy messing with a British guard on Facebook. The guard knocks the fuck out of the black dude. Black dude stretched the fuck out, right? And the British guard takes his hat, puts it back on, gets back in the stance like he ain't even do shit. And people just are stunned. And nobody even throws water on the black man's face. He's out there laid out, knocked the fuck out. They might say, oh, but he shouldn't have been acting like a clown in front of that guard who was just standing duty in front of the British palace. But if that white dude had knocked out a white girl, even if she had provoked him, you'd have had an excuse for her. If he had knocked out a black woman, you'd try to make some type of excuse. But if he knocks out a black man, that black man must have been an idiot and he deserved to get knocked the fuck out. Nobody cared if the black man was breathing or not. This was a black man somewhere in England. Now, granted, the black man was being a clown by dancing in front of those guards who are not supposed to touch you or say anything, and they protect the palace, and the black dude was acting like a clown, and he got knocked the fuck out. Okay, he took his lumps, but nobody cared if he was knocked the fuck out. Nobody poured water on his face. He just laid the fuck there. That's how the world looks at black men and black boys. They don't care if you lay the fuck there. And that type of treatment is coming. It's coming very soon for the black woman. And soon it'll be coming for all the other races, which they don't know yet. But it will be. Alright, so it doesn't stop with us, even though that's where it starts. But leave your comments, man. Let me know what you think. This is your boy, the author. I'm going to sign out. Y'all take care. Get ready for Christmas. Enjoy your holidays, man. All right, later.